He had nothing. No money. No power. Not even certainty that he would eat that night. Yet when a stranger collapsed in front of him, ignored by everyone, laughed at by some, he did something no one expected. He gave the last thing he owned. He didn't know who the stranger was. He didn't know help was watching. And he had no idea that one simple act, done in silence, would change his life forever. Stay with this story, because the ending is not just shocking. It will stay with you forever. When you have nothing, kindness costs everything. The sun was already sinking behind the unfinished buildings, painting the sky with tired shades of orange and dust. For Samuel Ade, the day had been long, longer than most. His hands were cracked. His shirt clung to his back with sweat and cement dust, and his stomach had been empty since morning. Samuel was a day laborer at a construction site on the edge of the city. No contract, no guarantees. If the foreman didn't call your name in the morning, you went home with nothing. Today, Samuel's name had been called, but the pay in his pocket was small, barely enough for a single meal. As the other workers laughed and headed home, Samuel sat alone on a broken concrete block, counting his money again and again, hoping the numbers might change. They didn't. He thought of his room, a single mattress, a flickering bulb, a landlord who had already warned him twice. Just one meal, he whispered to himself. That's all I need. He stood up and began walking toward a roadside food stall, the smell of fried bread pulling him forward like a promise. That's when he saw the stranger. At first, Samuel almost walked past him, like everyone else had. The moon was slumped near a bus stop, clothes torn, face pale, breathing shallow. His eyes were half open, unfocused, as if he were trapped between this world and another. People passed by. Some covered their noses. Some shook their heads. One man laughed and said, "Probably drunk." Samuel slowed his steps. He felt a familiar war inside his chest, the one poor people know too well. If I stop, I might not eat. If I help, who will help me? He looked down at the money in his hand. Then he looked at the stranger's trembling fingers. Samuel knelt beside him. "Sir," he said softly, "can you hear me?" No answer. The man's lips were cracked. His chest rose unevenly. Samuel swallowed hard. He stood up and walked away. 2 steps. 3. Then he stopped. Something inside him broke. He turned back, walked quickly to the food stall, and ordered a simple meal, the cheapest one. Bread and soup. The vendor handed it over. That money was now gone. Samuel returned to the stranger, knelt again, and gently lifted his head. "Please, eat," Samuel whispered, tearing the bread and soaking in the soup so it would go down easier. The stranger's eyes slowly focused. They locked onto Samuel's face. Confused, weak, but alive. Tears filled the stranger's eyes as he took a few trembling bites. No cameras, no audience, no reward, just 2 broken men on the side of the road. When the food was gone, Samuel gave him his water too, every last drop. Then he did something that hurt even more. He removed his own jacket, the only warm thing he owned, and placed it over the stranger's shoulders. Samuel stood up. His stomach growled painfully. The night air felt colder now. As he walked away, he didn't look back. He didn't know that someone had been watching. He didn't know that this stranger was not who he appeared to be. And he had no idea that this single moment, this quiet act of mercy, was about to pull him into a future he could never have imagined. The kindness that went unanswered. Samuel did not sleep that night. Hunger has a way of keeping your eyes open, but guilt keeps your heart awake. He lay on his thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, replaying the stranger's face again and again. The way his eyes had filled with tears. The way his hands had shaken as he ate. Did he survive? Was I enough? Morning came too fast. Samuel washed his face with cold water, pulled on the same dusty clothes, and walked back to the construction site with an empty stomach and a heavy mind. The foreman didn't call his name that day, nor the next. 3 days passed. Each morning, Samuel stood with other men at the site gate, hoping. Each evening, he walked back to his room with nothing but tired feet and unanswered prayers. The city moved on. but the stranger had vanished. On the fourth day, Samuel walked past the bus stop again. The spot where the man had been lying was empty. No jacket, no signs, no memory, except in Samuel's heart. He felt foolish for a moment. Maybe he was just using me, he muttered to himself. Maybe he disappeared like everyone else. But something didn't sit right. That night, the rain came hard. Samuel wrapped himself in a thin sheet, shivering. He thought about the jacket he had given away. I hope he's warm, he thought, forcing a small smile through his pain. Then came the knock. 3 sharp knocks on his door. Samuel froze. No one ever knocked on his door. He stood slowly, heart pounding, and opened it. 2 men stood outside. Black suits, clean shoes, cold eyes. Behind them, a black SUV idled in the rain. "Are you Samuel Lade?" one of them asked. Samuel's throat went dry. "Yes, I am." The man nodded. "You need to come with us." Fear rushed through Samuel's body. I didn't do anything," he said quickly. "If there's a problem." "There is no problem," the man interrupted calmly. "But someone wants to see you." Samuel looked past them at the SUV. His mind raced. Police? Criminals? Am I in trouble? "I don't have money," Samuel said. "I don't know anything." The second man finally spoke. "You helped someone 3 nights ago." Samuel's breath caught. "At the bus stop." Silence. "Get your things," the first man said. "You won't need much." Samuel turned back into his room. There was almost nothing to take. As he stepped into the SUV, rain streaking down the windows, his hands trembled. The car pulled away. The city lights blurred past as fear settled deep in his chest. After nearly an hour, the SUV turned through massive gates. Security guards stood straight. The road was smooth, silent. Samuel had never seen a place like this. They stopped in front of a grand house. No, a mansion. Warm lights glowed from inside. Samuel's legs felt weak as he was led through the doors. The smell of polished wood and quiet wealth filled the air. And then he saw him, the stranger, clean, well-dressed, standing tall, the same eyes, but now filled with strength. Samuel's heart nearly stopped. "I knew it was you," the man said softly, stepping forward. "You didn't recognize me, but I recognize your kindness." Samuel opened his mouth, but no words came out. The man placed a hand over his heart. "My name is Mr. Elijah Mensah," he said, "and 3 nights ago you saved my life." Samuel's knees buckled, and before he could understand what was happening, the man bowed, a wealthy man bowing to a poor laborer. Tears burned Samuel's eyes. But Mr. Mensah wasn't finished. "Sit down," he said gently, "because what I'm about to tell you will change everything." The truth he never expected. Samuel sat on the edge of the leather chair, afraid to sink into it, as if he didn't belong there. The room was quiet, too quiet. Mr. Elijah Mensah stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back, looking out over the city lights like a man carrying memories heavier than wealth. "I wasn't supposed to be there that night," he began. Samuel listened, his heart pounding. "I left my house without security, without my driver. I wanted to breathe like a normal man, for just one evening." He turned slowly. "But power attracts enemies," Mr. Mensah said, "and kindness sometimes invites danger." He explained that he had been poisoned, a slow poison, one meant to make it look like exhaustion. By the time he stumbled to the bus stop, his body was failing. "I collapsed," he said quietly, "and I remember voices, laughter. She was walking past me." Mr. Mensah's eyes darkened. "I remember thinking, so this is how I die, surrounded by people, but alone." Samuel's chest tightened. Then Mr. Mensah continued, "I felt hands lifting me, not roughly, gently." He looked directly at Samuel. "Your hands." Samuel's lips trembled. "I felt warmth, food, water," Mr. Mensah said, "and I remember your voice. You spoke to me like I mattered." Mr. Mensa's voice broke for the first time. I have been surrounded by wealth my entire life, but that night, a poor man treated me like a king. Silence filled the room. Samuel swallowed. I didn't know who you were, he whispered. I didn't want you to die. Mr. Mensa smiled sadly. That, he said, is why you are here. He snapped his fingers. A man entered carrying a file. Inside were photos, security footage, the bus stop, Samuel kneeling, Samuel feeding him, Samuel placing the jacket on his shoulders, Samuel walking away. You didn't stay to be thanked, Mr. Mensa said. You didn't ask for help. You didn't even look back. Samuel lowered his head. I went home hungry, he admitted softly. Mr. Mensa closed the file. My doctor said if you had arrived even 10 minutes later, I would be dead. Tears streamed down Samuel's face. I'm alive, Mr. Mensa said firmly, because you chose compassion over survival. He walked closer. Tell me, he asked gently, why did you stop? Samuel hesitated, then spoke from his soul. Because once, when I was a child, he said, my mother collapsed in the street. People walked past her too. His voice cracked. One man stopped. He carried her. He saved her life. Samuel looked up. She died years later. He continued. But she raised me to never walk past someone who needs help. Mr. Mensa closed his eyes. Your mother planted a seed, he said, and it bloomed in you. He reached into his pocket and removed a small key. This house, he said, placing the key in Samuel's hand, is not why you're here. Samuel looked up, confused. Mr. Mensa smiled. I don't reward kindness, he said. I multiply it. Samuel didn't understand. Yet, Mr. Mensa turned toward the door. Tomorrow, he said, you will return to your old life one last time. Samuel's heart dropped. But after that, Mr. Mensa continued, the world will see what happens when kindness meets destiny. And somewhere deep inside Samuel, for the first time in his life, hope dared to breathe. When the world turned overnight, Samuel returned to the construction site the next morning just as Mr. Mensa had instructed. Same dusty road, same cracked walls, same men waiting silently for work. But Samuel was no longer the same inside. He stood among the workers, feeling like he was carrying a secret too heavy for his chest. The foreman arrived late. He scanned the men quickly, then shook his head. No work today, he said. Project is on hold. Groans rippled through the crowd. Samuel felt his stomach tighten. One last time, he reminded himself. As he turned to leave, a man called his name. Samuel Ade. He turned. A black SUV rolled to a stop at the site gate. Then another. 5 in total. The workers froze. Dust hung in the air as the doors opened. Men in suits stepped out, calm, controlled, powerful. The foreman's face drained of color. One of the men approached Samuel. Mr. Ade, he said respectfully, we've been looking for you. Everyone stared. Samuel felt dozens of eyes burn into his back. Is there a problem? The foreman asked nervously. The man turned to him. Yes, he said calmly. You've been underpaying this man for years. Silence. The man handed Samuel an envelope. Inside, documents, contracts, bank statements. This construction company, the man continued, has just been acquired. The foreman swallowed hard. And Mr. Ade, he added, placing a hand on Samuel's shoulder, is now its majority shareholder. The ground seemed to move beneath Samuel's feet. What? Someone whispered. Samuel couldn't speak. The man smiled. This is not charity, he said. This is opportunity earned through character. The foreman was dismissed on the spot. The workers were informed of new wages, fair wages. Samuel watched men who had once ignored him now stare in disbelief. But the strangest feeling wasn't pride. It was humility. That afternoon, Samuel was taken to Mr. Mensa's office. A real office. Glass walls. Soft chairs. Quiet power. You could have taken money, Mr. Mensa said. You could have asked for comfort. Samuel nodded. But you chose dignity, Mr. Mensah continued. So I chose trust. He slid another file forward. Scholarships, housing projects, clinics, he said. You will help me run them. Samuel's voice trembled. Why me? Mr. Mensah leaned forward. Because wealth tests a man, he said. But poverty already tested you, and you passed. That evening, Samuel stood alone on a balcony overlooking the same city that once walked past him. Tears streamed down his face, not from joy, but from responsibility. Don't let this change you, he whispered to himself. As the sun set, Samuel remembered the bus stop, the stranger, the jacket, and he realized something powerful. Kindness didn't make him rich. It made him ready. But the final lesson was still coming. The ending that stayed forever. Years passed, but Samuel never forgot the night he went hungry so another man could live. The construction company flourished, not just in profit, but in principle. Workers were paid fairly. Safety mattered. Voices were heard. Yet Samuel refused the title of boss. He walked the sites in simple clothes. He ate with the workers. He listened. One evening, as Samuel drove through the city, his car slowed near a bus stop. The same bus stop. Time had weathered it, but the memory remained sharp. Stop the car, Samuel said quietly. He stepped out. The city noise faded as he stared at the concrete where destiny had bent. He removed his jacket, new, warm, expensive, and folded it in his hands. A young boy sat nearby, barefoot, thin, invisible to the world. Samuel approached and knelt. Are you hungry? He asked softly. The boy nodded. Samuel handed him food, water, then the jacket. The boy's eyes widened. Why are you helping me? The boy whispered. Samuel smiled, the same gentle smile he had worn years ago. Because once, he said, someone helped a stranger and the world changed. Behind Samuel, a moon watched. Mr. Elijah Mensah, older now, slower, but smiling. You become what the world needs, Mr. Mensah said. Samuel shook his head. No, he replied. I stayed who I was. Months later, Mr. Mensah passed away quietly in his sleep. At his funeral, powerful people spoke. Politicians, business leaders, influencers. Then Samuel stood and said only this. He was saved by kindness, and he spent the rest of his life honoring it. Years later, a school was built near that bus stop. A hospital followed, then homes. On the wall of the community center, a simple sentence was carved. You don't need to be rich to change a life. You just need to care. Samuel never put his name on buildings, but lives carried it forward. And somewhere, every day, a stranger stopped, a hand reached out, and the world quietly changed again. Moral of the story: kindness is never wasted, even when no one is watching. Your lowest moment may be someone else's last hope. True wealth is not what you receive, but what you choose to give when it costs you something. He helped a stranger when he had nothing, and in doing so, he gained everything that truly matters.